Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Sam. This week, we have a follow up session to explore on the new economy, like we did last week. And we are honored to welcome Mr. Arun Mairaji, former member of Planning Commission of India. Mr. Myra is one of the country's most respected voices on economic and social transformation. In addition to sharing his deep insights today, Mr. Myra will also discuss on his new book, Reimagining India's Economy, offering fresh perspective on how India must rethink its development path to build an equitable and resilient future. So, without further ado, I would now request Sam sir to welcome our guest and address our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Premvada. Thank you, Upendra, for organizing this. Greetings, everyone. Greetings from Chicago. It is the first day of summer here in Chicago, and we have about 100 degrees expected today, which is pretty rare. So, summer is here. Welcome to you all again. I'm privileged to introduce today a very close friend of mine for many years, Arun Myra. Arun and I worked together during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, and thereafter, he's one of those close friends I've learned a lot from. And today, Arun will be talking about his book as well as some of his ideas on decentralization, especially when it relates to Indian economy. In many ways, Arun is Gandhian. We are just about same age. We work together on a variety of projects, including the semiconductor um, industry possibilities in India, Innovation Council, and we had great time together. I look forward to hearing him, though I've heard him on many occasions, but I really want to learn more about his book. And I'm delighted that he has taken time from his busy schedule to come meet with us. And I hope this is not the first and the only interaction he will have with us. I want to welcome him again. And I'm sure this could be a series of conversations over a period of time. So thank you, Arun. Welcome. And just to give an idea, this is a group of young people from all over the world. Ultimately, 5,000 people would watch this on Facebook and other platforms. Today, several hundred would be joining us live. And they are from all over the world. And these are very interesting young people that I enjoy interacting with every Saturday morning, my time. They have lots of questions. They're full of ideas, hopes, aspirations, and you will enjoy interacting with them. Thank you. Welcome, Arun, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Sam. And Premada, thank you so much for introducing me and starting the introduction with making a suggestion, a hope perhaps that I would be able to illuminate young people about what is happening in India and a way forward, which is in my book, Reimagining India's Economy, The Road to a More Equitable Society. And as you said, that Sam said, actually, Premada, it is not only India that is being buffeted by some forces, social forces, ecological forces, political forces. Even the United States is being buffeted by the very same forces. And I might say the United States is showing up badly in their ability to handle all of this than India is. India is a more stable country, to my mind, than the United States is at this moment, and making some provocative statements, perhaps, but you'll understand me when I explain what these forces are and how they are erupting in the world. So, thank you, Sam, and it's always a pleasure to talk about Gandhian ideas and the poor people of India and how they are being left behind by development, progress, GDP growth. And we talked about innovation in my time with you, your time with me, when we were together in the Planning Commission. You, of course, were chair of the National Innovation Council, on which I had the pleasure of sitting on your right hand, though not as your right hand man, but as a close friend throughout all those meetings. And we had to think about a new paradigm of innovation. Silicon Valley type innovation is not the solution for the world. In fact, it is destroying the world. And this was something between Sam and me because he's a great, great technology person. He's got many patents to his name, and you can't fool Sam about technology. But the question was, as Sam would also be asking, is what is the purpose for which we are using technology? And it's a question of the purpose of our existence, the purpose of what you would call progress. Where are we trying to get to? And that is where Gandhiji's vision of Purna Swaraj, a country where, or a world where every person, man, woman, poor or rich, has equal political freedom, equal social freedom, and equal economic freedom. When we got independent of the British on 15th August 1947, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru made that famous speech, world famous speech, for at this midnight hour, India's waking up to a new era, to its tryst with destiny. And its destiny was to make our country one which was, like I'm saying, a democratic country, but not democratic only in the political sense of everybody has a right to vote. And we maintained that. But the Gandhiji's vision of democracy, where everyone has an equal right to exist and an equal right for their views and their voices to be considered in shaping the collective future. And we are not there yet. And I'm saying, honestly, we are further ahead than the United States is, though it got its so called independence from I don't know what, the British, I guess, like we did, many more years before us. So these are the forces I want to talk about today, and they are explained in my book. But I start with my own personal story about where I was born just before the partition of India in Lahore, and then what happened to my family and me, and how I grew up experiencing my country trying to form itself, trying to stay on the road towards the Purna Swaraj destiny that Gandhiji had offered to us all as a vision. Sam, I'm waiting for any thoughts, provocations. Yeah, so where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? We went wrong, if I might say, firstly, in the Nehruvian idea, and I've shared this with Sam, and then in the idea of the new independence of India 1991, the so called economic independence of India 1991. We began to say after 1991 that in 15th August 1947, India became politically independent, but we were somehow not free of uh, our slavery to an economic idea. And we kept thinking by 1991 that that economic idea that we are slaves of were the idea of socialism. And we said in 1991, now we're going to be a genuinely capitalist country. Join the Washington bandwagon and follow the Washington ideas of a free trade and a free economy and private sector in the markets. And of course, hopefully, technology solving all problems, very Western US ideas, as well as combining that with electoral democracy. So the Washington consensus was yes, there must be electoral democracy, because that's the only way to have a democracy. And you must have this view of economics, which was a Washington view of economics, that no borders between countries in terms of trade, in terms of flow of finance. Let the money flow around the world and let the American money, which is the biggest, go wherever it wants to, and set up offices and run financial systems. And so big American companies became bigger and bigger, and they came into India and they went into China. But China was being smart. China also has a much longer vision of its destiny than even India has. And they stayed on the path. That yes, we call them a communist country, but basically it's socialist. Means the people, the peasants, the workers, they must have equal respect given to them than rich people, equal dignity, equal opportunity. So it's that socialist idea, which is Gandhiji's idea. You see, so I see no difference that way in terms of the fundamental socio-economic ideology of socialism and Gandhi's view of an economy, hmm, which is not, I'm again saying, not Nehru's way. Nehru had the dream of this tryst with destiny, but his view was big industry, big control, large scale enterprises. And Nehru, by the way, was a great believer in science and technology. After all, he was the person who founded our space mission, Atomic Energy Commission, and science foundations. Yes, he believed in modern science. But, like I'm saying, in terms of the right of how an economy should be run, which is he had, to my mind, the wrong idea, which was, yes, a Western idea as well as a Soviet idea. Large industries, they will be the commanding heights of an economy, and the people will be workers in the economy. Whereas Gandhiji's idea was not that. He said in every community, the community will do its own work, it'll produce its own stuff, they will exchange with each other, buy and trade with each other, and it will be a social economic system living within its ecology. They will respect nature around them. They'll be mindful about the use of their streams and their forests, and their soil. It was a systems vision, and we lost it in Nehru's vision, and we lost it further as we started modernizing in Sam's time, bringing technology into the country, but with the wrong idea of a society, which in 1991, like I said, became a very American idea of an economy and a society. So, what further provocations do you want? So, what's the solution?
The solution is probably to rethink through. Solution is to realize what was right, what was wrong. The solution is to really, you know, rethink through. Hello?
Yes, yes, I'm with you, Sam.
Yeah. And, uh, really focus more on decentralization. I think that is where we went wrong, not only in industry and economy, but also in politics. We have no elected government at local level. I always say that look at the mayor in India. Mayor has no power. District level, there is no governance except turned over to the bureaucrat. So I think the real answer lies perhaps in further decentralization so that every district is given autonomy, financial power to work on their own core competence, worry about localization more than globalization. And it requires complete rethinking. And it's not
Sam,
easy.
yeah, complete rethinking. And this is where I say I must pause.
Yeah,
If we think about the United States,
yeah,
yeah, every city has a very empowered mayor, elected, very powerful.
yeah,
Every state is independent. Its federal constitution does that. So if you talk about decentralized political governance, the United States is far ahead
yeah,
of even Britain because Britain doesn't have, provinces.
right.
It is probably it is the largest country as a democracy after India, and it is a decentralized democracy. Yeah, you're right. India is not like that. However, look at this. When it comes to the global climate problems, when it comes to equity around the world problems, when it comes to the problems of let's have peace and not war, is the United States a good example? Is it a good leader? So I want to
No, I
lift
think
the discussion.
US
I want
is
to
still more about power and politics, less about planet and people.
Good. Power, politics, planet, people. There are four P's here. So just
Yeah.
keep them in mind, these four P's, and let me give you two pictures. Let me give you two pictures. First is with some numbers. Some numbers. You know, there have been since 1996, I think, the first one in Berlin, COPs, the community of parties, where all the governments said we're going to collaborate and manage climate change, arrest it. 27 of them have been held. How many times have the experts of the world and the governments of the world and environmental experts met? We are not progressing any further. In fact, we're getting worse. Yeah, and each time, as I say, the most powerful country, that is US, dances in and out, as well as, if I might say, the Europeans who show a lot of kindness towards the environment are tackling it like a technical problem. It's a matter of carbon in the atmosphere, not using any energy that produces more carbon in the atmosphere, as if the world is a physical system only. Well, the world has got people, it's got people who need to earn, it's got people who have whatever resources they have available at that time of their history or in their place. So they have to live with whatever energy resources are at that moment available to them and use those energy resources to improve their own lives. So we come to the whole idea that experts sitting up there and big commissions and international commissions will find the solutions of the world. I'm saying it is wrong, and here I'm a physicist, okay, and I'd say so. If you have the 17 SDGs, which we have, and the 17 SDGs describe many environmental related problems, many economic related problems, many social related problems, 17, because the countries of the world, along with all the NGOs and the other experts got together and said, gosh, so many problems have to be solved simultaneously. Environmental problems, livelihood problems, public service problems, inequity problems, power problems, they all must be resolved simultaneously. Hmm? You can't just solve the climate problem without keeping equity in mind, like I just said. So let's do this. The latest estimates show that the progress that we've been making against the SDGs is so slow that if we continue with the same way, the chances that we will achieve these SDGs by 2087, excuse me, are about now reaching about 60-70%. We were supposed to have reached these SDGs in 2030. These are 5 years away. If we stick with the same way of solving complex problems, we will never get there. Remember, Einstein, again a great physicist and scientist, said if you continue to try and solve big complex problems with the same approach that caused them, you're mad. And I think the world has gone mad, trying harder and harder to apply science and top down solutions to complex socio-economic environmental problems. So I say this, that the problems of society and the economy in India broadly are different to those in England, to China, and the United States. But let's go further. Even within India, the problems of the environment and society in Kerala are quite different to those in Rajasthan, quite different to those in Odisha, quite different to up in the mountains in Himachal Pradesh. So a one size solution for India's problems can't fit all the districts or villages of India. And certainly, therefore, one size global solution found by experts and then say, let's have treaties and measure the progress of countries against those SDGs or the COP commitments that they might have made is not the way to solve these problems, because all these forces, these 17 forces, they come together in their own configurations in every part of the world. And I just ask you to do this experiment, that if of the 17 problems, you may say all 17 of them don't apply everywhere because some of those problems in the SDGs relate to the quality of the water in the oceans. Well, some countries don't have an ocean next to them, or some villages in India are far away from the ocean. So maybe not all 17, but I say I'm sure that at least seven of the problems named in the SDGs apply in Colorado, in the United States, and apply in Rajasthan and apply at least seven, maybe more, at least seven, even in the richest parts of the world, New York City, Los Angeles, right now we are seeing, they do apply. So if out of a set of 17, you pick seven and see how many combinations there can be of these seven, of 7 out of 17, it comes to 94 million. So there are 94 million versions of the system all over the world. So clearly, you can't have even 10 solutions that will apply consistently to 94 million. It has to be local system solutions evolved by communities, hmm, evolved by communities, and implemented cooperatively by communities to these complex socio-economic environmental problems. So this is the scientific explanation for Gandhiji's very wise and through observation, and he had Kumarappa and other great economists with him and scientists who said, look, we can see by experience and show you here in India by experience that only if we do it like this, with a village and a gram panchayat, he didn't even use the word gram panchayat, by the way, that became an idea that we put in, and I want to talk about that. It was about the community operating as a community. Now, panchayat and stuff. We then began to say, but the only way people can choose their leader is by electing their leader. So let's have elections. So we have elections for a national government, elections for a state government, elections for a city government, like in the United States. Yeah, in India, you may say the missing thing only is in cities. Say several of them we don't have mayors. But please remember, we do have elections in the gram panchayats. We've had them very forcefully after the 73rd and 74th Amendment that Rajiv Gandhi made. We've had them. When is that? That is already in the early 1990s. 30 years have passed. Do you think the pace of improvement in our villages in terms of this environmental problems and the social equity problems and livelihood problems have advanced sufficiently? Oh, you may say, but India is better off than it was in 1991, for example, and certainly better off than 1947. And here's where I bring the contrast that there is big China. It is also an Asian country, an ancient civilization. It, in the 1980s, was as poor, poorer than India. China's and India's GDP were comparable. China's GDP per capita was a little less in 1980s, late 1980s than India's. And look what has been achieved since then. By the time I joined the Planning Commission, this is the question Dr. Manmohan Singh posed to me. He said, where did we go wrong? Not in 1947 and with Gandhiji's idea, in 1991. The time that he, introduced these reforms, and he said, I'm described as one of the world's best economists and the hero of this liberalization. But we must reflect what has it achieved. We can always talk. Everybody can say, I was better off, I am better off than I was last year. But if others around you in the same environment are able to go much further ahead, you got to say, am I on the right path? Can I look at the path that others have taken and learn from them? Hmm? Learn from them. And again, coming back to Gandhiji's spirit, he said, look, I am going to let the winds of the whole world and ideas from the whole world flow through my mind, but I will not be shaken off my feet. I will keep my feet on the path towards all the improvement of the lives of all the poor people of my own country. But what are the ideas from the world? And therefore, I come back to China, India. China has gone so far ahead. In the time that I joined the Planning Commission, like we did, everyone knew it, the economy was already 5 times larger than India's in those 25 years. Hmm? Its per capita income also was 5 times larger because the populations were about the same size. Chinese industry was manufacturing industry had become 8 times larger, though we had in India by the late 1980s a better manufacturing industry than China had. We used to, and Sam was there, of course, and produced on the tech side, on the telecommunication side, inventions and so on. But in many things, like the companies I worked with in Tata's, we were making some of the world's finest trucks and buses. We were, I'm saying in the 1980s when I was with Tata's, exporting from India those trucks and buses with an Indian name on them, it's a Tata, into 50 countries around the world in competition with the Europeans and the Americans and even the Japanese. India was doing it. And here I come, 25 years after the liberalization and the opening up to free trade and let the foreign companies come and bring their best technologies into the country. Their manufacturing industry, China's was 8 times larger. And by the way, their high tech manufacturing, 48 times larger than ours. And this is what Sam mentioned the story about the semiconductor and business. Look, before the 1990s, India had its own industries producing, well, maybe you may say simple computers, but they were. And they were working, by the way. We had Wipro, we had HCL, they were making these things. And Sam had developed switches and things which were making all made in India, designed by Indians. Hmm? What happened? We let go and said, let American technology come, let Americans set up their companies here and bring their best, whatever technology, GE, to produce electronic stuff, or, high tech equipment, and others to produce electronic stuff for us. And the China now grew its electronic and computation industry to the level that the US is feeling threatened. And the US has been saying, oh, you see, they haven't yet become an open economy. Then think about it. Maybe for the benefit of India, we shouldn't have been following that US liberalization path, which is what Dr. Manmohan Singh asked me to consider. What is it that we need to do differently? And where, as Sam said, where did we go wrong? And I'm pointing out that we got wrong in adopting slavishly this Western idea. hmm, You're in Chicago, Sam. Chicago school, economic idea, Milton Friedman
They are
and
the key.
yeah,
They
government
are
is
the
bad.
key even in Latin America.
That's right.
All the
Government is bad.
economists are from University of Chicago.
Not just that. All the economists, Sam, that we've had
Yeah,
advising us in India have
right.
been working with the World Bank, schools
Absolutely.
in Chicago, yes, been governors of our Reserve Bank. It's
Right,
Western ideas. They're good human beings. They care for the country as much as anybody does.
right.
But the ideas in their head of economics and progress are, you're right, you're claiming it rightly. Harvard, hmm, Kennedy School,
Yep,
Chicago School,
yep,
Columbia, all American ideas. And
yep.
we worship them. I'm privileged, Sam, that you're allowing me to talk like an economist. And
Yeah,
Priyanka said, I am never invited to discuss economics with people in India
yeah,
because I'm not an economist, you see.
yep.
And the point that Manmohan Singh said, we've got to rethink economics itself. Hmm? The science of economics is a very unscientific science. It starts by making assumptions and then treats them as facts. One of them is that all human beings are self interested and rational human beings. We know from our own experience. Yes, each of us has aspirations, ambitions, a need for power, the word you used. Yes, we are complex. We are much, I'm say, richer inside ourselves than just a tick-tock machine that decides rationally, which is what your bits and bytes do within a computer. But you start your economic models based on that all the units within the economy are just like bits and bytes of a computer. Switch on and switch off. And somehow some invisible hand makes this whole machine work very well. And so it's very interesting when the economists say, leave it to the market. And then somehow in the market, with all these competing actors with their egos and their desire for power and competing with each other, somehow some invisible hand will make the whole system beneficial for everybody. It is not that. There is no invisible hand as such. We shape the ideas. We then hmm, uh, develop policies based on the ideas. And what's happened in the world, Sam, I'd mentioned the COP and the SDGs. The solutions to the global problems are coming from, if I might say, the same Western academics who have created the problem which they're not able to solve in their own countries, and they're trying to tell the rest of us how we should be, solving our problems. Let's give up following them. Let's go back to our roots like Gandhiji. let's be scientific and look around ourselves and say, why are things not working? What would be another better way, which I could find from somewhere else? It could be, like I said, some ideas from China, some ideas from Germany. It could be some ideas, many, many ideas from within India itself. But that's the way to go forward. And I do think, Sam, that this system of electing people, right? What happens in the US, it happens here, that all the state governments then get, run by the same political party, or they try to. It used to be the Congress party commanded everything. Then we had an up and down, and the many states had different governments. Now we're coming to the stage where, well, one other party is ruling many more states. Yeah. And you may say, what's wrong with that after all the people elected them? Yeah, exactly, I agree. But then we say, no, 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 but the election system must be wrong. There's not diversity, it'll become like China, one party. Think about it. If everywhere the party on the top is allowed to say you can also fight the elections, like in the US, in the city. I mean, the US is divided. Everybody has to declare beforehand either I'm a Democrat or a Republican, put in front of your house, who you are. We shouldn't get to that place. We're getting there by, I'm saying, this panchayati election system. And different way of by consensus saying that for this matter in my village, I pay respect to so and so. He'll convene us all. The elders in my community, some people are wise by experience in this. अगर हमारी कुछ social problem है, बहस हो रहा है, I'm using Hindi words. I hope the people who don't understand Hindi. I'm saying if there's conflict within my little community, there are elders who we all turn to and say, okay, we're coming before you, just calm us down and make us listen to each other. Hmm? Right? It's not a justice system like in the US, and the justice also apparently either the Democrat or a Republican. We feel that this is from our own culture, our own tradition. These are our leaders for different things. This was Gandhiji's idea. He was never elected himself to anything. He was not elected anything. He didn't even want to be elected as the Congress party leader. But he had great influence and we all respected him. Why? Because he cared for the people and they knew it. And he took steps, took risks in his own life, not for making himself more famous or richer or winning an election, but so that they could be put into a better life, like the Dundee March example. Now, if you put me onto my Gandhian soapbox, Sam, so you're going to, and I can see Pia Mother nodding her head. Please ask me some questions.
Before we go there and open up for question answers, I would like to just add one point, maybe 2 points. One is that what are we trying to optimize? You see, in Western model, we are always trying to optimize bottom line, return on investment, productivity, efficiency, cost reduction, quality, performance. An economy cannot be about optimizing for numbers. It has to be more about optimizing for the human development. And there is no systematic way today to optimize investment for human development. Okay, that's one. Second, I think what applies to India also applies to Africa. Africa is the next big challenge for the world. And if Africa can learn in advance and follow the model we are talking about, you won't have this problem 25 years or 20 years from now in Africa. Otherwise, Africa is also headed same way. So those are the two things I'd like to emphasize. Go ahead. Sorry.
In a way, I want to push back on you, Sam, and I always like to do that. And you're one person who doesn't resent it. I don't know whether you do or not. You use these words, optimizing the outcomes of investments. Investing what?
No, I'm
Money?
saying Western capital idea is to
No, but
really
I want you
optimize.
to explain. You're using a word,
Uh-huh.
yeah, how to optimize the outcomes of your investments. So I'm asking you two questions
Mhm.
in part of that statement. Investing what? What is being invested the outcome of which you want to optimize. What is
No,
it? You use the word capital, maybe it is that I put money capital and I want to optimize the outcomes of that money
that's
capital.
what economy is all about today in the Western world, right?
Well, you're thinking about the economy the same way. I'm teasing you. If
Mhm.
you start using the word investment, I'm asking you, what do you consider is being invested?
No, investment has to be total. It should be land, human capital, money, environment, everything.
You use another word, human capital. Good, let
Yeah,
me pick it up.
yeah.
Let me
Also,
let me.
environment capital.
No, no, no. I before we go to environment,
Mhm.
look, we are all human beings. We invest our time. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Life is about time, and when I can't experience time anymore, I'm dead. My life is a measure in time. You say, how long did a person live? That's clearly how old are you? It's time. So it's my time that I invest in living, and it's my time that is then invested in organization to make that organization able to produce what that organization wants to produce. So I become, if I might put it this way, a worker within an economic system. Now, who controls that economic system? Whether it is a Soviet factory, it used to be, as Gandhiji pointed out, or the Ford factories in America, run by someone on the top, and everybody who's investing their lives, waking hours, was under the command of the bosses. Could be capitalist owners or government appointed managers. Hmm? And so, as Gandhiji said, look, where's the freedom the person has in his daily life? He is just a piece of a machine. And just as a teaser, I'm saying, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, with the idea from the West that, give up all this Soviet ideas of the government running big industries, let the private people own and buy those companies and run them. Hmm? It was a Western idea that should be the private sector which does these things. This is a Western US labor economist who said, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, the only remaining totalitarian enterprise is the Western capitalist business corporation. Hire and fire. Yeah, you're here to work, and if you don't deliver the work, out you go. And now with the computer systems, when you say, well, you can use the computer and work at home, there's even surveillance on the computer. What were you checking into? You get it? So I do
Yeah.
say that, when you talk about investment and human beings are investing their lives in the global enterprise, and the global enterprise is not just an economy. And whole globalization is like the slogan was, well, we in India, the G20 did a good slogan of Vasundeva Kudumbakam, which means one world, one family, and one future. Whereas the globalization idea that the US imposed on the world and Western economists was one world, one economy, and one future, not one family and one future. A family is different to an economy. A family is a society, a family is a community, a family consists of caring people who care for each other. An economy, like I said, consists of resources. Even the human being is a resource, and it better do what it's supposed to do so that the machine is most efficient. And of course, since human beings have feelings and so on, just get rid of them and replace them by computers and robots, and so it's much more economically efficient machine. But what's the use of human beings in the world then? What are they born for? What do they want to make of their future? And that's why right now the world is in a stuck position where there are all these techno enthusiasts. I don't know where you stand, Sam. Techno enthusiasts who say technology, please harness it, please learn it, apply it, it will solve the problems. I'm sorry. The whole starting view is wrong. Yeah. It's about human beings. And just like Henry
If you
Ford
look
quote
at what
Sam
we
said,
did, I think you should maybe revisit the article. We can talk about that separately, not right now. I'd rather have other young people participate in questions. Okay. But the whole idea in telecom was indigenous development, local talent, local production, ancillary industries, rural development, development for Indian environment, high salt content, high humidity, high temperature, low power capacity. So all of these parameters were very Indian, okay? And it required a lot of political will to keep international out. We could do what we could do because there was political will to keep the international people out. Siemens and GEC and all others wanted to come in at that point in time. But we can talk about that later on. I'd rather have.
No, 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 but Sam, no, 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 no. Nehru's idea was exactly the same, self-reliance. I grew up in that. Like I mentioned before, it was Indian. We designed then the trucks ourselves because we couldn't obviously export
We
someone
didn't
else's
continue that.
design.
Yeah,
Yes, and they were suited to Indian conditions, which is poorer countries, African
absolutely. We did
conditions,
not
and
continue that
that
path.
is why our trucks were sold in Africa, like you're pointing out, better than Daimler Benz's own trucks were. So it's not that. It's as I'm pointing out, it's not about indigenous technology. It's not about
We lost that path.
technology. It's not about indigenous industry.
Mhm.
Look, we all live in families we don't exchange with each other in money terms, we don't transact. Okay, if you're going to you know uh, help me produce food for me, you don't tell the woman, I will pay you so much for producing the food. I mean, she does it because she cares, and you do something as a man, your children do something. We don't pay each other, we don't measure what we do for the community, for the family, in money terms. But in the economy, whether we are talking about a country or anything, everything is measured in money terms. That's how the economy is measured, in money terms, to GDP. So it's a fundamental ideas. And we must think of the world, like I said, Vasudeva Kudumbakam, as one family. Now, if it's a family, then we can't be transacting in money terms. Neither can we measure the quality of the family by the size of its economy, by its GDP.
Mhm.
Sorry.
So go ahead, Priyambada. Open up for other people.
Yeah, thank you both of you for such an engaging conversation. There's a question from Namita. She's saying, since all the countries have become like self-interested, like nobody cares about the world now, how do we sort out this global mess? Like, do we need something like a global, like new structure?
Yeah, Namita, thank you. Look, every country must be, as you said, allowed to be itself. But what is the boundary within which it can have its own political governance? Okay, let's go. Europe had been going through wars in the 1700s and went on, and they're killing each other, the big wars. And then they had this Westphalian Treaty. What did the Westphalian Treaty say? That within whatever boundaries had been settled after the wars within Europe, Austria's boundaries here, Germany's boundaries there, Italy's boundaries there. Now, within those boundaries, every people, all peoples have the freedom to choose their own government and run their country the way they wish to. No one should interfere with another country's affairs inside. The Westphalian concept, and it's good. Hmm? So the United Nations was formed with the same principles, that they are sovereign countries. They may be poor, they may be small, but they're equal in the democracy of the United Nations, in the General Assembly. And within their boundaries, they should be free to choose their own governments, the form of government they want. Some may want to have, like in Europe, it remains. Some had monarchies, some had electoral. That's their choice, and let it be so. So that's so. Now, what's the problem thereafter? That in our country, India, Pakistan, we don't know where the exact historical boundaries ever were settled, whether they were between Peshawar and somewhere in Kabul. I was born, my family originally north of Peshawar. We are Hindu, we are Indians, but that is now Pakistan. How did that happen? Because then, some later development said, well, the boundary of India is going to be this side east of Lahore, and my family is uprooted. So now, but within that boundary, we must be free to choose our own government, and similarly, so should Pakistan be free to choose its own government. So we're equal members of this United Nations, and so I go. Very small islands in the Pacific or in the Caribbean, they are free to choose, and they're equal members of the United Nations, and they all should be free to choose their own governments the way they wish. But then we got this idea of no, the only form of government is electoral democracy. And if a country does not have an electoral democracy, like maybe China doesn't have, or we felt that Syria doesn't have, not we meaning, I'm saying the USA particularly and the Europe, we must, force them to progress and become democratic. But look, they've chosen their way. It's doing very well for them. Don't just go disrupting it. And don't try to pretend that you're disrupting it for the sake of some good idea. In the case of these interferences of, I'm saying, the US and the West and the Middle East, it's all about controlling oil and resources very clearly. In China also, it is now the fear that, they may control global technology and global manufacturing. It's economic problems, and but you're covering them up by saying no, it's about human freedom, and people in China should be also given the freedom to elect their own people, which by the way they do, but it's a different way of doing it than the US one with noisy elections on which you spend a lot of stuff and make enemies after every election. It's a very different way, but they do. And so the people must choose the way they go and to do this. So when you talk about global governance, to your point, I'm saying please respect that. And every district of India has different circumstances, environmental, economic, different cultures. They must be free to develop a system that works for them. But you rightly say, oh, but look, they need each other too, because, like, for example, the rivers can't be controlled by only one district of India or even one country on a subcontinent. Yeah. So we got to share some things amongst ourselves. So we have to have a higher level above the local levels of governance, in which we, like I'm saying with the United Nations, we then all talk like equal human beings, equal countries, and say, how shall we share these resources equitably? And that decision shouldn't be based on the power of people, it should be equal. The conflicts that are happening in the world today are the conflicts between the two victors, ideological victors, of the Cold War. And who were the two ideological victors of the Cold War? Was electoral democracy and free market capitalism. The two US ways of doing things. It was said that the Soviet Union was not an electoral democracy nor a free market capitalism. So Soviet Union collapsed. Francis Fukuyama says this is the end of ideological history. But look what's happening in the United States. Electoral democracy is being doubted. Free market is not producing the results for the people of America itself. And so these two ideologies, one on the economy, free markets, private, and other on politics and society, which is electoral democracy, they're run on different principles. In an economy, the principle of justice is that it's property rights. If you own something, you have a right on how it should be used. It's yours. And if you own much more, then you have more power. Similarly, within a corporation, a business corporation, those who have more shares must have a greater right on how the company's profits are going to be used or where the company should invest. It's fair, isn't it? I own more than you, so the majority must always have a superior right over a minority. Whereas the principle of human rights says every human being, whether he's a billionaire or a trillionaire like Musk, or a poor person with no money on the streets of Los Angeles, has an equal right. Each beating heart is equal to another. The amount you own is not to be used as the idea of the power that you have over the rest. So there are contradictory principles in this. And the world has to, I think, begin to respect human rights much more than we, in the design of our, I'm saying, our economic systems and corporations and economies, the right that we give to people because they own the property.
Mm.
So it's an advancement of ideas that has to go forward. Now you'll say, as Gandhiji said, he's not, uh, he said, I'm a capitalist and a Democrat. And he wanted India to be a country with, well, that time there were 300 million people, 300 million capitalists and 300 million Democrats. So everybody must have a say on how the common property means I may not own the stream of the village or the pond of the village, but it's a commons for us. I must have an equal say as the rich person on how this common resource, the pond, is going to be used. It hasn't turned out like that. Yeah, in the US, I'm saying extreme. You can build a house on the sea and you get the right to the beach and prevent people from even using this common resource, which is a beach and the sea. Yeah, Mr. Khosla in San Francisco, I mean, hurts me to have an Indian do this. Yeah, you may be very rich out of wherever you made your money and got this lovely house out the cliffs south of San Francisco. And if people are just using a path to go to a public beach, and you say they're making so much noise, disturbing my peace, and the boundary of my property covers and includes that path, I'm going to stop them using it. But without that path to the beach, they can't enjoy the common beach and the sun and the sea, which belongs to everybody. So, firstly, yes, less respect. Local communities must have the right to govern themselves. Countries must have the right to choose how they will govern themselves, and let no one try to tell India that we can become a better democracy by what the Americans say to us. And this is the one I've been sharing with Sam. I mean, let's stop asking the US how to make ourselves a
Mhm.
better country. They better fix themselves first.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. That was enriching and very thought provoking. So, next question is from Avdesh Kumar. He's asking, how can we balance technology and village based economy, which is most important if India needs to progress.
Yeah, and this is, I think, a very fundamental question today. You see, um, technology today is being controlled by very large corporations. The richest people in the world today, uh, mostly people who are big owners of technology companies, or people in the financial services sector who are big investors in these technology companies. It's all about technology. So those who control the technology are controlling what can be done with technology right now. So if in India, like we're saying, we want to be using the internet, we want to be also um, using the benefit of digitization, but who should control what data goes into the model? Who should control the decisions that are being given to the model to take? And who should then prevent the model when it takes bad decisions hmm, and change itself? This is the big discussion on artificial intelligence in the world today. That the big corporations, who are the investors in technology and now in artificial intelligence, they have taken charge of the world. And it's amusing that Musk and Amazon Bezos, they are now building rockets to and charging people $4 or $5 million for something. And their whole thesis, I've heard this said, I think I forget Bezos or Musk or somebody at some technology conference, that yeah, these problems that we are having in the world with environment and so on is getting too hot. But we are having the technology solutions. We are looking for water on Mars, and we'll go up to Mars and take people in rockets to Mars, and we'll settle another planet. Please, if you take these ideas of civilization and how to use natural resources, please stay here and kill yourselves. Don't go and kill other planets also. So I'm saying, please, in terms of the technology, yes, let's, like Gandhiji said, tell me what the technology's possibilities are. And if I don't feel like using it, because I feel it may do the wrong things or I don't understand it yet, I should have the freedom to say I don't want to be using technology. But then these people that criticize you're remaining backwards. Hare, you don't want to be advanced in technology. Look, in India, we want to develop more people with artificial intelligence, more STEM education. What is STEM education? Is it teaching me anything about humanity, about ethics, about caring? Oh, science, technology. It said engineering and maths, and it says economics and management. This is what people aspire to learn: science, technology, and economics and management. Neither are managers taught ethics and caring for anything other than their company's interests and the shareholders' interests. Economics, like we just said, It's got a very close model of the whole world is a machine and little parts in it. What's the purpose of it? Economists don't care except to grow the size of it, its GDP. And science and technology as the tools, and scientists and technologists, unfortunately, do not think hard about philosophical questions, which is what is the purpose of it.
Thank you, sir. There's another question from Preeti Dayal, or Preeti Daisy, sorry. She's to continue with your thing about ethics. Nobody teaches us ethics, not in schools anymore. So she's asking, how can we improve the happiness index, considering everyone, all the nations are now becoming polarized. Like we live in a polarized world.
Happiness index. I spent quite a few years, while I was so-called retired and spending time having Wednesday conversations with Sam and other friends during the COVID about the state of the world and state of India, with people in elsewhere in the world who were also meeting, in Europe and saying the state of the world and so on. And it's that time they said, we should be measuring the progress of the world by this thing called happiness index, like Bhutan has, rather than, GDP. So then they said, well, how do you define happiness? What should we measure if we have to measure happiness? And it found out that people in Bhutan care about different things than people in New York would. So if you ask a person in New York what makes you happy, I mean, different things will come to his mind. I mean, what size of car I have, and etc. But a person in Bhutan may be not even thinking of those things at all. So when you come to what am I going to measure to know whether people are happy, there are many different things. So you can't have one index. Every person and every community must be able to say what we feel we want to be like. And when we get close to that, we will be closer to our own aspiration. And as we get to the aspiration, we'll have another aspiration, meaning that now that we got this, but at all times, I'm choosing. And people will be choosing different things at different stages of their journeys. You can't have one index of anything which is globally accurate and represents everything. And happiness, certainly, I'm saying, is a soft quality. You cannot do it. So, what is it? I come back to Gandhiji. You have to ask yourself, what do you care about most deeply? And I have been asking this to many times when I've been invited by CEOs of companies to, we got 1 hour together and Mr. Myra, you're a Guruji and all the rest of it. How should we lead? I said, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you care about the most? Just shut your eyes and think about it for 1 or 2 minutes. Well, no, we got very little time, only 1 hour, and got meeting afterwards. I said, good. I'm not going to take much time. I'm asking you to shut your eyes for 1 minute. Just think, and I start repeating a little bit. So, what do you really care about? After 3, 4 minutes, I have to wake them up and I say, hey guys, you said you were short of time. They said, no, but this is the first time I've really reflected on what I really care about, not what I'm told to believe I should care about, like efficiency, progress, return on investment, and so on. This is what I care about. And I asked them the next question. If what you care about most was to happen in the world, who would benefit you want to benefit? And they would think again and say, my mother, my child, my family, people they're close to them. And I said, Gandhiji had given this principle to us that if you want to take a big decision, first start with what do you really care about? And he cared for, I'm saying genuinely, the dignity and freedom of all people around, whether they were poor or rich, Hindu or Muslim. He cared for everybody having the sense of their own destiny and their own freedom. And, okay, Anantodaya was the principle he gave, which is when you have to then, because you're in a position of power, to take a decision, think of the poorest person first. How would your decision improve the lives of the poorest person? So here are the CEOs coming instinctively to that point. Yes. What I really care about is the lives of others. Now, of course, big leaders must can't just think about their own families. I take a decision; it must benefit my family because that can be very nepotism there, and people do that. It's just just the commonest, poorest person around us. Hmm? So, if we can create a world where we are creating, if I'm saying so, Purna Swaraj for everyone, others, we are creating happiness. And how do I measure it? Well, you're going to have to ask people everywhere, do they feel that they've got Purna Swaraj in all these respects? That even though they are poor, even though they are not in a position of power, their voices are respected, they are given dignity. Hmm? This is not true in America. It's not true here. This is a collective journey the world must keep progressing. That as we advance, yeah, new people will get into power and they'll begin to oppress the others because they have power. So at all time, keep open, keep listening to those who are being left behind.
Absolutely, sir. Very important thing said, that we need to, think about our decisions, about others as well who are in the society and our community. So just before we end this session, last question is just a comment from Perry, say asking, like, he's just mentioning whether family optimization of profits, like, is it because of money over family, is the new form now, and is it a problem?
No, 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 other way around. Family over money. It's not optimization of profits, it's optimization, if I could say, of happiness. Again, please get, I'm afraid this STEM education with economics and management and, of course, science and technology as tools has just made us think about investment, the word Sam used, and investment meaning measure even human capital in money terms and how much is a human life worth, how much does a human life produce in their lifetime. That is the value of a human being, or in the time that they are at work. Please, let's get money out of it. Money is just a means of measuring things. And we can use some other currency to measure what we give and take to each other. It should not be money. Because then
uh,
who have the most money, people are the most money, will decide what everyone should do.
Sam, sir, your thoughts before we end the session?
No, I think I would like to again thank Arun for joining us. Maybe we'll have some more sessions on it because this requires a lot of conversation. I want to thank you all for joining and look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Arun. Thanks for
Uh,
coming.
yeah, just before ending, sir, your book is on Amazon, is it? Just for our
Yes, yes,
viewers.
it's available in the US. In fact, my daughter, son, brother, they've all got copies.
Okay.
It's
So
in
we can
UK
find it on
also,
Amazon.
India also. Yes, it's
Thank you.
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah, this is
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Arun.
much, everyone.
yes.
Thank,
Thank you.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Priyamvada. Thanks, Upendra. And
Thank you.
thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye, Sam.
Thank you, Arun. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Yeah.